Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally a time to unveil the finished product for the Transit Remastered project. I am completely finished with everything except for maybe just a couple of things, but overall this is what the finished product will be looking like. I might add some secrets into the actual map itself whenever it releases, which will probably be tomorrow, Friday or Thursday or Friday of this week in November. So it's taken me a couple weeks, about a month or so, to get this map complete, and now I can finally say that the map will be up for download for Java, and if I can get Bedrock players to download this map, I can also get a Bedrock download for it as well, so you can put it in your worlds, whether you're on PC or on console, if there's a way to put it on console. So this has taken me a pretty long time, but now I can finally say that it is finished. So in this video, I'm going to go through each POI and all of the buildings inside of it and try and go over all the detail and stuff like that that I've put in the map. And then at the end of the video, I will be showing a silent walkthrough of the map with shaders on just to give an atmospheric look. And I'll also link the shaders that I'm using in the description below. I am not partnered with the people who made the shaders, but I feel like these shaders go well with the map and adds more to it. And then once I get the upload for the map link uploaded for all of the socials that I have and put it on like Planet, Minecraft, and stuff like that, then I will begin the construction for the original Transit Remastered. Like I said in the other videos prior, that there is going to be a second version of this map, like the one that we see in Black Ops 2. But this one was just a map just to kind of put it in Minecraft and for people to download, just because why not have it in Minecraft, especially if I want to do something with like a roleplay series or just like a background map for something that I do. I'll definitely be using this. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the first POI, which is the bus depot. Alright, so on the interior, we don't have too much. There obviously is like where the map is usually displayed over here. We have some bus seats, windows, then we have the bookshelf and stuff. Usually we can find the part to the turbine in there. And then two bathrooms. There's not really anything in here just because you can't really see it because they're both zombie barriers, but I added that anyways just because if you want to add your own details to some of these rooms, any of the POIs, you can go ahead and do that yourself when you download the map. And then we have over here, I use the light blue wool to show that this is where Quick Revive usually is in the map. And then usually this is over here where you get your tickets, but usually this is like a zombie spawn. But I did make it line up to where it actually is in game, because usually if you go in that little area over there, you can see there's a door that leads into here. So I just added a sign, and then more bus receipts. And then if we go in here, not really much in here. Have the window up here, and then we have just some seats right here. I might add some more detail before the link goes live to download it, but right now that's how it is for now. And then let's go ahead and go outside. As you can see, this is pretty faithful to how it looks in game, except on the little postcard that's usually for the intro loading screen, the whole building is usually like blue, but I feel like that didn't really go well with anything, so I decided just to make it a mix of two blues just to kind of give it more contrast, and then give it that gray kind of look too, just because it is an older building. And then we have the pixel art little poster on the side of the building that's usually seen in the cutscene / loading screen. I went ahead and just did that and made it my own design. And then we have some bushes back here you usually can't see because you can't go back behind there, but I made sure to add it since I've been going through the map on Black Ops 2 kind of back and forth, just to make sure that I don't miss any detail. And then you have the shed back here that you can usually see. And usually there's like an outhouse back here, but I decided not to add it just because it didn't really add anything to the build. But I may add it before the download goes up. And there's also a building over there usually, but I might add that later. But right now, it's just going to stay the way it is. So, and then let's go ahead and go down these roads. And you'll see this kind of throughout the map. If there's a road that leads to nowhere that's usually in the map, I'll add like a tunnel just to make it have the illusion that it goes somewhere, but in reality it doesn't really go anywhere. So, but I wanted to give it the feeling as though like it actually leads somewhere. So if we see it on this side, we can also see over here that the road kind of goes to the left, so you can't really see where it's going, but you can see that it's actually blocked off over here. So again, it just gives the illusion that it's actually going somewhere, but in reality it's not. And then you can see the cliffside over here. And then let's go over to this little cabin. Usually you can't really see inside of it, so I just added just wood floors in here, but didn't really do anything with it. And then the fence. And then over here is Silky's auto repair shop. Went ahead and did the little office you can see from the barrier that's usually right there. And then usually this is where you take your car in for the auto repair shop, and then those garage doors usually come up. But I don't really have any mechanisms or anything like that that opens the garage door, so I just use stairs to give it that little look. And then the little sign up there that usually says Silky's. And then over here, we have the water tower. So this was kind of a late addition that I added before I started making this video, because I totally forgot about what I needed to add here, because I realized towards the end that I was like, oh, there's a water tower right here, so I figured just went ahead and made my own design for the water tower and added it in. So, and then it looks like that's really all there is over here. I added a little bit of terrain and stuff like that all the way around here. That way it still gives the illusion that there's more going on outside of the map than just what's in the confines of the map. So, but I may add some Easter eggs on the outside if you like go exploring yourself, but that'll be later before I upload the link. So let's go ahead and go through the tunnel. Nothing really too special about this. I did add the signs, the road signs that show you where you're going, and then we had the little places over here. Usually there's like a car right here, but then there's 2 barriers and 2 doorways over there. I just didn't really add too much in here just because you can't really see anything from the inside. Such as with over here too, there's a restricted area, but literally just a doorway. And then over here it leads to nowhere. And then I also did add the fallout shelter over here. Again, it's really nothing over here. I did also have the fallout shelter that's right next to the bus station. It really leads to nowhere, just to a 1-room style underground facility. So as you can see, not really anything in the barriers. And then I also did have to sacrifice a little bit of accuracy and made the tunnel just a little bit shorter, just because it didn't match up with the layout that I had, which would have led to the diner. So overall, this is pretty cool, pretty good, except it's just not as long as it is in-game. So, because I'm missing like 1 barrier that's like right there, but it just wouldn't fit. So I kind of had to sacrifice that for accuracy as well. But as we start getting closer to the end of the tunnel, you can see the tunnel is still under the hill, and then it leads to the highway system that's all the way down there, but as you can see, it leads to nothing. It's just an illusion, and once the actual map is going to be remade as the original Transit, I'll have this blocked off, so you can't really go over there, but it just gives the illusion that there's something out there when there really isn't. And then let's go over to the diner. So the diner doesn't really have anything in terms of like foliage or anything like that, other than just like these trees. And then I also added the little fence over here that's usually blocked off a lot of the foliage and woods that's over here. So nothing really special. And then you have the mountains and the tree line and stuff like that up there. And then let's go ahead and get into the actual diner. The diner sign looks pretty accurate to the one in game. I'll go ahead and put a picture of what it looks like from the game. Again, looks pretty accurate. I would probably make it just a little bit bigger, but I think it looks pretty good right now, how it is. And then let's go ahead and go inside of the diner. Pretty accurate to what it would look like if none of this was destroyed or in a zombie apocalypse, so I do applaud myself for having pretty good accuracy. You have the speed cola machine right there, and then this usually is a zombie spawn, but I just made it a back door like it usually is. And then this is the cook area back here, and then you have the tables and the bench and stuff like that over here. And then if you go up here, you can get up to the roof, and then usually there's the galvanucles that are like right there as soon as you get up, and then you can usually make your way up to the roof and find all of these like air conditioners and stuff like that. And then I did add these torches to the back just to make it glowing. And then if you can see these mob spawners on each of the corners, with the shaders that I have, the mob spawners actually glow purple. So, and since I don't really have any neon lights, I just use the wool for the purple neon lights. I figured that adds a little bit more lighting and gives it the effect that it's glowing purple. So I went ahead and added that. So, and then again, there's another door that leads out here. I'm pretty sure this is also another zombie spawn. So let's go ahead and make our way outside and go to the gas station slash auto repair shop. So if you go over here to trash cans, simple design, and then if you go in here, this usually is a bathroom, and then usually there's like a little hole in the wall where zombies can spawn and come in through. And then if you go in here, you have the little checkout area, and then you have like the mystery box that's usually like right here, and then you have some shelves in here. Usually the workbench is right here to build the shield, but if I do the design that I wanted to do, I'd have to break through and put all the blocks that are needed, and if I wanted to do it the way it's going to be shown later in the video, then it would kind of look a little weird from the back, so I decided not to add it here. So you'll know what I'm talking about whenever I go to the power station. And then if we go in here, there's nothing in here. I might add some little bookshelves as well as some tables in here, but overall I'm just going to keep this area pretty empty. So, and then we have the garage doors again. I decided to use the tiled black stone just to give it the black effect or the darker door effect. And then we have the cabin again, which usually in game it's like a block bigger, so it probably would stretch out to over here, but I figured why not just copy and paste the other one, since it's technically the same thing except it's just double doors instead of a single door. So I just copied and pasted it over here, because usually you'll find the part to either the bus or you'd find a part to the roof area over there. So that's about it for diner. Again, pretty accurate, except I did not put the gas sign up here because it just didn't fit all the letters, so I decided just to leave it blank. And then if we go over here, follow the road, there's some more trees, and then we have the sedan sign slash little billboard. It's just a basic design, so it looks pretty accurate because you have like the sedan right here, and then the guy that's like right next to it, and then letters at the top and the bottom. Again, pretty basic. And then if we go over here, we can see that the road that leads up to town is over here, but we'll feature that as one of the last POIs in the video. And then you can see the tree line starts going in, and then you can see there's a forest, and the trees start getting thicker and thicker until you reach the farm. Now this one is pretty accurate in my opinion. I don't really see too many things out of place with this POI, except for like maybe like a couple things, like especially like the house, is usually once you get up to the front down this little pathway, the house usually kind of faces towards this pathway or kind of like at an angle, but Minecraft makes it kind of look a little weird, so I decided just to make it facing the barn. So let's go ahead and look at the stables. Not really much going on in here, just simple stable design. So added some hay, and then I might add some animals in there, or just leave it blank for people to add animals and stuff like that. Then usually there's like a zombie spawn right here. So that's basically it for the stables, so let's go ahead and go inside of the barn. Again, looks pretty accurate. Usually this is blocked off by some like farm equipment and stuff, so you can't really exit or enter through there. But all the little crates and stuff like that are relatively in the same order as they are in the game, because you have this one long one that usually has like a shotgun wall by, whether it's in the survival map or in the actual transit map. There's a wall bar right there, and you head up here, you can see that we have this trusses and stuff like that, and the banisters all lined up in the same order. And then you have the double tap machine over here. I made use of the bamboo planks to give it that great feeling, so I did that, and then I just added more barrels and stuff like that to give it the crates design. And then if we go out here, It's just a walkway, steps leading up to here. Usually this is like a zombie spawn, but I just made it open. You'll see that throughout the map that a lot of the zombie spawns will just be open and actually like accessible until I make the actual zombies map. So, and then let's go ahead and go to the little shed area. Usually you can find like a part in here, and there's usually like a table right there, and there is a tractor that's usually in here, but you can't really fit an actual like tractor or a detail tractor in here, so I just left it blank and just left it empty. And then if you go out here, let's go ahead and go inside of the farmhouse. So the farmhouse really doesn't have anything in here. I'm gonna add the table over here and then add the couches that are like in the middle as soon as you walk in, and then add the other table right there that usually has the radio that's inside of it. So again, not too much detail, and then you have like a little room down here, and this is usually like blocked off by some broken steps and stuff, so you can't really access it there. And then you have the kitchen. Usually this is where you put your gun to save it for a different game if you don't want to lose it. And then here's the stove and stuff like that, and the countertop. And then if we go upstairs, we have a table up here, some chairs, bookshelves, and candles and stuff like that, just to add a little bit more decoration and stuff in here, because usually there's not really much, just like some bookshelves and chairs and stuff. And then jug is usually up here if you're playing the survival map. So, and then usually there's like a zombie spawn right here, but it's just boarded up right now. And if you go out here, usually the mystery box is spawned right here if you're playing survival, or this is one of the spawns that it goes to whenever you're playing Transit. And then this is unblocked off, so you can go up here and go in this little room. There's no real like way to actually know what exactly these rooms are supposed to be, so I just left them blank and just leave them up to the imagination. And then we have the pylons. So as you can see all around the map, the pylons will be in the order that they usually are in. Even the ones that are like toppled over and destroyed, like this one usually is toppled over and is on top of the road and like on the other side of that, but I decided to put it in exact order just because this is a map that's before the nukes hit and before the apocalypse, so this is like fully functioning and inhabitable. So I just went ahead and put them all where they usually are. So, and then we have some chicken coops and little places where the cages are usually held for like chickens and stuff. And then we have this silo right here that's usually behind or to the side of the barn. You can usually see it from the zombie spawn that's like right there. And then you have the longer silo that's right behind the chicken coop. And then we also have a cornfield back here, which mostly took by hand, but I use the Axiom copy and paste feature, which helped me because usually if you use like World Edit, you can't really copy and paste like crops and stuff because then they'll break or disappear. So I just use the copy and paste feature that is used for the Axiom mod. And then we have the forest back here with a little lake that's usually back here. So I think the shape is pretty well the same as it is in game, and then I just added the tree line up around here and then just a lot of trees. So, and then I left this blank, and then this is covering the tree line and everything back there. So I think that's pretty much it for farm, so let's go ahead and move on to the cornfield / corn maze. So if you go around this winding road, you can see that this whole area is covered in what seems to be corn. I use tall grass just because there's nothing really like close to corn in Minecraft so far. So I just used tall grass, and then I made the shape of what looks to be a circle in the cornfield. I didn't want to really make it like a perfect circle just because it's corn. So a lot of times you can't really get it like too perfect, and I just wanted to give it that feeling that was made like by hand. So it's not all perfect, but I think it looks pretty good for what it's supposed to be. So, and then I made all the paths that lead all around, and then you can go under the pylon if you take the certain paths. And usually you can build the nav card table right here, and this is used for the Easter egg if you want to lure the Avogadro down here, or if you need to kill the zombies for the Richtofen side of the Easter egg. So overall, this is pretty cool, and I like the design that I made for the pylons because I think this looks pretty accurate to what they look like in game. because usually they're like the has like the red outlines and stuff with the like white slash silver type of metal. So I think I did pretty good for that. And then let's go ahead and move on to Noct. So as you can see over here, there's two ways to get to Noct. You can either go this way or you can go that way, and then both options lead to this doorway right here, and it leads directly to Noct. So I'm pretty happy with the design of Noct, just because, especially like the outside, because it looks pretty accurate to what it looks like on the outside, and I made it a little bit more like circular with like adding the stairs to the sides just to make it look a little bit more circular, and then the pillars on the outside make it have more depth. So I think I did pretty good with the outside. And then let's go ahead and go inside, and as you can see, pretty accurate to what is shown in game. You know, you have the zombies spawn area and stuff, and I decided just to make it the full Noct building instead of just sectioning off each spot like it is in Black Ops 2, because usually this part is blocked off, and then so is the door downstairs. You can't really go upstairs at all, you can only just go in the spawn room. So I figure why not just add the whole entirety of the map. And if you can see, like the view out here is pretty cool too. So I'm pretty happy with the way I built this, although it is a little too wide. So in some parts don't line up exactly, but other than that, I think it looks pretty well made. So because you have all the barriers out here and stuff, and the little walkway that leads to this barrier, went ahead and did that, and then go ahead and go downstairs for the final room. So usually the mystery box is like down here, and then you can usually buy the Thompson right down here on this wall by, and then the zombies can come through the tunnel and destroy all of like the brick and the stone, concrete, and stuff like that. So overall, this is pretty cool, but again, it's not entirely accurate because of how wide each of the rooms are. So other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. So let's go ahead and move on down the road. So if we come down here, we can see that this leads to the power station, and we can see that the train tracks that are in the game actually lead to this tunnel down here, and then there's one other tunnel down there once we get over there. And then we also have the train refueling station, or what I assume to be a refueling station. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but it looks like it would be something to do with the trains, so I went ahead and added my own design to it, and then I added a pylon as well as right there. And then let's go ahead and go up to the outhouse and take a look downstairs. But before we do that, I will preface that usually there are like some cars and stuff like that blocking this area. So, and it looks pretty like empty over here, but in the actual game or actual map that I make after I publish this one, there will be like debris and stuff like that covering it, so that way it's not as wide and empty. So let's go ahead and go down here. So as you can see, usually this is where the door is, where you place a turbine to open up Pack-a-Punch, and then you have the zombie spawns and stuff like that. And then you also have the big room where the Avogadro is usually held down here, but it's pretty empty. And then I also use the trials little thing right there just to give it more unique design. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then if we go all the way around, you can see that this barrier is open, and then this barrier actually connects to the barrier that's actually in here. So, but we'll see that in just a second. But then we have the power room, you have the monitors and stuff like that that are placed all around over here, and then this is what I was talking about earlier with the crafting table. Usually, I just built in, like, I took down the wall just to make the little crafting table, but I can't do that for all the maps just because you can't really see on the outside of this map, or on the outside of this building, so you can just go ahead and build it on the outside and you can't really see it. But with the other buildable tables, you can see from the outside, so I didn't want to make it look bad. So, and then we have the power switch that you can usually build. And then let's go ahead and go to the zombie spawn in here. So you usually don't see inside of here, but I wanted to make it a little part of the map, because you have like, what I'm using a lapis for is like 115 and then the cages are like where the denizens and different test subjects were held. So I just wanted to make this room fit the narrative. And then let's go ahead and head up to the power room. So usually there's like a little drop down here, and that's open, but since this is bricked off all the way, and usually in game the brick wall was like destroyed, I just kept it up just because it's not like in the zombie apocalypse again. So I just decided to keep it sealed up. And then the other version of the map, I will actually be adding the little drop down so you can get down here. So usually there's a crafting table right here, and then if you go up here, you can usually find like a part in the window. And then over here, the catwalk is usually like destroyed, and you have to jump over because there's like lava and stuff down there. But the catwalk is intact. And then if you go over here, there's another power switch. And then we also have tombstone, which is usually in this area of the map. So, and then I just added different devices and stuff like that, like generators and like different stuff that like will be seen kind of like in a power station, just different mechanisms and stuff like that, and added different like power switches and stuff. So, and I didn't add the catwalk that makes its way all the way over here just because in game you can't really see where exactly that little walkway is supposed to be from. So it's kind of ambiguous, and you can't really tell where exactly it was supposed to be before it was destroyed. So I decided just to leave that out entirely, and then I'll add it in for the actual map. So I think that's pretty much it for over in Power Station. So we can move on to our next POI, which is, before we move on to our next POI, I also show the other tunnel that's over here, because usually this part you can't really see usually, and it's blocked off, and it just kind of leads to nothing. But I decided just to make it a little tunnel. So, and then if we go up the road, we can see that here is the cabin. The cabin really doesn't have too much inside of it just because it's just a small part. Usually like the Bowie knife wall by is right there and stuff, and you have like the fireplace with the skulls around it. And I just added just a little bit of detail like with bookshelves and stuff. So pretty small build, but it's still a pretty integral part of the map, so I figure I might as well include it. So if we keep going over here, there's another pylon where it should be, and then we make it to one of my favorite places in the whole map, which is town. So if we go over here, go to the bar, usually there's paintings and stuff like that up here, but I did a command that deleted all the entities, and entities such as item frames and paintings are considered. So I got rid of those, but I will add those for the final upload of the map. But we have like a pool table, and we have some different stools and stuff like that over here. And then usually this wall is broken down and destroyed, which leads it to like the little bench over here that you can build the jet gun. And then over here is stamina up. So I just didn't really add anything in here. So, and then if you go over here, usually this is like a bathroom. You can see it through like the zombie spawn. So I just added that. And if we go upstairs, usually there's like a little hole in the wall or in the ceiling. That way zombies can stop and spawn over here. So, but I just add like a bed and stuff like that over here, because usually there's like a mystery box spawn that's like right there. And then added some like seats and stuff like that and bookshelves. And then usually there's a zombie spawn like right here. But as you can see through here, not a whole lot of room for what it actually is in game, so I decided just to leave it blank. But I will make it like a zombie spawn inside of the next map. And then over here, usually the building is broken, so you can drop down and make escape if you get too crowded with zombies. So that's about it for the bar. And then also I made like a dartboard over here just to add more aesthetic feel to it. And then if we go to the bowling alley, this is like one of my favorite buildings to make just because it looks pretty accurate, and I also had a fun time making the sign because I had to compromise. Because usually the sign is more like this, and is like leaning to the side, and I wanted to incorporate the blue, so I decided to make a bowling pin and just made like an oval around it with blue, just to give it that blue feeling. And then I also made this sign over here that shows how many lanes are available. And then if we go inside, We can see usually this is where you buy like your shoes and stuff, but since I did that command earlier with the item frames and the paintings, I have to re-put those back over there, but they will be added back soon. And then we have the little lanes that you throw your bowling ball, and this is usually where the bowling ball is recaptured. So, and then this also leads to the laundromat. So pretty basic design. Doesn't really have anything other than just like some washers and dryers and stuff. And it also has an exit over here. And then it also leads us to the alleyway over here, where usually the mystery box is over here sometimes, dumpster, and then you can also find on the survival map that double tap is right here. So, and this also leads back into the bowling alley. And then if we go over here, these buildings don't really have anything in them. So this building is literally the exact same with the one over here out the window, except it's just different color schemes, but they're relatively the same building. So I figure just make those filler. And then this building has really nothing in them, just some windows, just because there's no real like actual entryway and no like design for these buildings in the actual game, so I decided just to make them, but some of them inaccessible, especially with this one and then the ones down over there. So, but we'll circle back around and look at those in just a second. So then we go on to the church. This is one of my favorite designs that I made. I just kind of looked at the color scheme of the church in game, and then I just kind of based it off my own design. It looks pretty cool. I like it. And then if we go inside, we can see that it has some pews. We have some banners and stuff, and then we have some torches, or some candles, and then we have a lectern for the pulpit. So overall, pretty basic design, but I like it. So, and then we move over here. Oops. So if we move over here, we can go onto the bookstore, which usually you can use the turbine to open the door, and then the Semtex grenades are usually bought in here, and there's also usually like a part that's over here, but relatively this is just a small bookstore, just has some bookshelves and a reception area. So, and then as you can see up here, Jug is in here, but the wall is blocked off just because in the actual game the wall is broken down, and so is this one as well. So, but I just put those walls back up. So, and then if we go over here, this is the salon slash barber shop. I have the mirrors and stuff and the stools, and then I have some tables as well as a exit over here slash entrance. So not really much downstairs, but then upstairs we have a hallway that leads to a bedroom slash apartment building. This doesn't really have anything in there just because it's the zombie spawn. And then usually this is broken down so you can drop down as well. But I just added a little bit of detail in here and out here. And then like I said earlier, if you break down these walls, you can see that Jug is in here as well as a little walkway down there. Usually can't see that just because it's a zombie spawn as well, but I decided just to add this stuff in here. And it's really weird that there's no real way to actually get up, not even from like the outside. There's like no indication that you can go up stairs, so I thought that was a little weird. But and then we go over here. This is the general store. You don't really see anything except for like the windows and stuff like that on the outside, but I decided just to make it my own and add some random designs and items, and then some aisles, and then I just made like a little thing like dye your own armor. So just little stuff like that. And then if we go over here, we can see that this is supposed to be a small cafe, but there's not really anything I can do with it just because I don't really have any space, and I just didn't really have anything to work with. So, but I decided just to make just a little bit of an interior with the awning on the outside. And then there's also this building that has literally nothing, because usually this building is like destroyed and just like toppled over. So there's no real like way to know where an entrance was or like any windows or anything like that. So decided just to leave it blank. And then that leads us to the bank, which honestly is a pretty cool design. All of the like teller's windows and stuff like that are rebuilt and brought back up. And then if we go back here, We can see that the bank vault is back here. Now I don't have a mechanism that can open the vault, so you might just have to break in. But once you get in here, you can see there's safety deposit boxes all around over in here, and then you can also see there's a little walkway down to the pack punch room. So if we walk down here and go to the pack punch room, you can see all the cages that are usually in the room, and then you can see like the zombie spawns have some hallways and stuff like that, and has like purposes. So you can see there's like 115 and stuff like that, and cauldrons, zombie spawners, and then just like this room as well, you have a window right here and crafting table, and usually this is where Pack-a-Punch is, right there, usually built on this workbench, and then a little lab area with garage door that lifts up, but you can only see that through the barrier. So, and then add a little walkway that leads all the way to that room. So not really much to do down here, but again, it's still looks pretty cool. I like it. So, and then if we go back up here, I will show the final buildings. So, right next to the bar, we have the building that has like a hole in the wall right here. If you like open it up, and then it has like zombies dropping down and then going into that hole in the ceiling. So that's boarded up. And then usually it says like moon right here, which is kind of like a callback Easter egg to what happened to the map because of moon whenever you completed the Easter egg. And then this building is literally just a copy and paste from the building that's over there. This building has nothing in it other than like some chests and a reception area. And then on the top floors, there's literally nothing in here. Not in this building, not in the bowling alley. There's a little bit of something inside of the laundromat, but that's just because usually this part is broken and you can kind of see inside of it, so I just added just a little bit of an interior. But the rest of these buildings don't have really anything in them, and just like this one as well, only has windows just like that one right over there. So, and then you can see just the walkway all the way around the town. Not really anything else out here. I might add an Easter egg or two just for people who are exploring the map, but that'll be for when the download is available. So this is our last POI that I wanted to show, which is the bridge. Usually this is all covered in lava and stuff, but over here it just looks like a scenic view, has the mountains and stuff like that, and the trees. So it just looks a little bit better than how it would be in the actual game. So, and it is about as long as it is in game too, so, because usually when you get to around this point, it starts breaking and then starts caving in. So, but yeah, overall, I think the design of the bridge looks pretty cool. Nothing too fancy, so it looks pretty accurate. And then that leads us back all the way to the bus depot. So, but yeah, this is the end of the video. So here in a minute, I will be putting footage of me walking around the whole entirety of the map. I know this has been a long video, but I just wanted to show you all what the map has looked like and show you the progress, and let you all know that the map will be able to download later on this week. So, but I will be putting more updates on the next map, and let me know if you guys want any other zombies maps in the comments, because I will be starting construction on different maps, or even original maps, here soon as college lets out. But just let me know what you all want me to build, whether it's zombies related or any other games, just let me know. And without further ado, I will leave you all with the footage of the walkthrough, and I hope you all have a good one, and stay safe out there.